Hi, my name is McKay Galliano Adams. I wanted to do this quick video to kind of show you my career path and my journey, my highlights. Um, I know a lot of people come from design from different backgrounds, have different paths. Thought this would be helpful. All right, going back to my formative years, I grew up in the 90s. Um, I like to draw. Um, I like to ride skateboards, and weirdly enough, I like to create websites with my friends. My friend who I skateboarded with was the first person I knew that got dial up. So we would go to his house and we would create free pages on Angelfire and basically try and recreate the skateboard website that we liked. I don't know why we did this. It was The connection was terrible. HTML was terrible. It didn't ever do what you wanted it to do. It always broke. Everything had to be in a table. Um, but we spent a lot of time on it, and I learned how to do HTML and CSS for some reason. So in high school, I actually got a painting and drawing scholarship. So that took me to college. I took a lot of painting and drawing classes, realized that that's not what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I wasn't even um, talented enough to do it. So I pivoted to graphic design, kind of combined my interest in computers and art, and went to USU, graduated in a degree in graphic design, was actually able to finish my last semester in Switzerland in a study abroad program, really great program that they had a huge impact on me. This is a picture of me in Lucerne, June 2008, when I graduated, and kind of the philosophy of Swiss design from this trip. My professors kind of had an impact on me. Um, those photos there are from this series called Swisted. This designer combined old punk rock posters from the 70s and 80s in the Swiss style. So I really love that, kind of combined my two interests in that. Swiss design was known for the grid system, very mathematical, uh, systematic approach to layout design. And the idea was to be as clean as possible, let the message speak for itself. You could use the grid method um, to maximize the message and have it match, the messenger. Um, so that was kind of impacted my design philosophy. Wim Kral, not Swiss, but he was Dutch, but kind of this same modern mindset. He's very famous, came up in the 70s. He said, I believe that as a designer, I should never stand between the message and its recipient. Um, so, this idea of being very systematic, very clean, uh, service oriented definitely had an impact on me and my design philosophy. After graduation, I worked for a lot of design agencies. For the first few years and the first couple agencies, I was just getting my feet under me. Nothing too, I would say no highlights from that period until I joined a company called Modern 8. Modern 8 is a really well known agency here in Utah. Um, Especially leading up to this point, they had been in ComArts frequently, almost always won regional awards, sometimes featured in national awards, and I was lucky to get a spot on the team. Unfortunately, I didn't win any um, national awards. I won a regional award for this T-shirt promotional design that I did with our logo or our tagline, "Brandscape Architects." So I was proud of that, and as well as this logo here. This was a rebrand project for a popular insurance company in this area. They had a logo that was 116 years old, and we had to rebrand this company. And this is something I'm proud of, and actually something I still see around in the area. Um, So even after this, my time at MX, Modern 8, I didn't feel like a true graphic designer, and I wasn't feeling fulfilled in the work. I found graphic design to be very ephemeral. We'd work very hard on campaigns, and they would run for a couple of weeks, maybe a quarter, and then you throw them away and you start over. And we worked for a lot of advertising teams, and everything just seemed to be um, geared to try and get people to buy more things. So it wasn't particularly rewarding. During this time, I was also working on websites because of my background in HTML and CSS. And the websites started getting more and more complicated and more interesting, and led to more apps as well. And I really started to gravitate towards that. These websites were becoming functional, seemed to really provide like a utility, a service that helped people, and had more of an impact. So I just naturally found myself move into UX and product design and work on these complicated websites and apps. Eventually, I landed at Sling TV. I joined the team that launched the very first Sling app at the end of 2015, beginning of 2016, and that was a hectic time. They were brand new. They were trying to get up on all the platforms. So I had the opportunity to work on Android, work closely with the Google Chromecast people, worked on the iOS app, worked closely with Apple. And then finally, I worked on the first release of the Apple TV Sling app. At this point, we're pretty close with Apple. We were pretty close with Apple. They featured us in their WWDC event that year in 2016. I saw my work featured in the conference, which was surreal. Definitely a highlight for me. At this time, we also did user testing. This was my first opportunity to do some large-scale research. We partnered with a firm in San Francisco, and the team went out there a few times to observe, and that was great to get the feedback from customers using Sling, but also to see how tests were administered and things like that. After Sling TV, I contracted with a agency here in Salt Lake called Underbelly, which had partnerships with Facebook, and so I exclusively worked for Facebook while I was at Underbelly. And that was another really eye-opening experience. Really great experience to see how a company like Facebook operates, how the teams work, how they do lots of experiments, things like that. So that was a highlight as well. Then I moved into what I call a fintech phase. After that, I worked for a startup here in Salt Lake called Acima that did leasing, lease to own service. I was the first and only designer in this small startup. That was a great experience. Had a project that I talk about more, where I had a huge impact on the company and the customers without really doing any design that was considered like typical UX design. And so that kind of was pivotal for me to like rethink what design could be. After Acima, I worked for MX, a fintech company that does data enhancement, account aggregation, and personal finance management tools. One of my favorite products I ever worked on was one we called FinStrong, where we use data to create a financial health score. Super fascinating, really great team, really great work went into that. We worked with partners that I'll explain here in a minute. But after MX, I had the opportunity to come to Jack Henry and become a product design manager for a really great team. And that's been excellent as well. So during my time at MX, I helped grow the team at MX and kind of transitioned into a research role for the team, which allowed me to work with these organizations here on the right. It really started when we attended a conference at Duke, a behavioral science conference put on by Dan Ariely here in the middle, who's written a lot about behavioral economics. And that was pivotal. That was definitely a highlight. Seeing behavioral research and behavioral economics, how that can impact product design was big. And Dan and the team and everyone we worked with was very gracious. There's a whiteboard of a session that we did with the team. It was so well that we ended up creating a partnership with them to work on FinStrong, that product I mentioned earlier. And they actually helped us design an experiment to measure and validate that we were impacting, financial well-being for the positive. We did a similar thing with Financial Health Network, another organization that we consulted with. Worked with a behavioral researcher there on a separate area of the app to try and gauge financial wellness on that part of the app as well. That was a great experience. And then the last one up here was a financial data exchange. This was a kind of a volunteer group where I was able to work with researchers from Intuit, Visa, Chase, some of the big banks, and actually do research projects together, watch people, interview people, watch them use aggregation tools or other tools, and just kind of collect general research for the industry. And that was fantastic. So this kind of final chapter really pushed me in the direction of behavioral science and psychology, and I've really dove headfirst into that. Follow a lot of folks out there, kind of this cutting edge or the intersection of design and psychology, behavioral science, and I've really come to believe that my medium as a designer is behavior. It's not pixels or UI or any of that thing. It's exactly what Jeff Gothelf says here. Meaningful changes in customer behavior or outcomes are the only way to know if we've delivered value. And this has kind of been my mantra since I've over the last few years is I really want to provide something of value to a customer. We really want to make their lives better. And in order to do that, what I put out there has got to change their behavior in some way, hopefully for the positive, right? And so that's kind of been my mission and my outlook on my design profession now is how can I influence people? How can I change their behavior for the better? And that kind of influences me in the projects that I take, the teams I work with, and really all the work that I try to do. So that's a quick run through my career path, some of the highlights. Thanks for watching.